Hi, I'm Patrick Giguere, and welcome to my Cosmic Alchemist Astrology YouTube channel. So we're going to get into the month of March 2023 today. If you haven't been to my channel before, this is my monthly astrological forecast and analysis. And I basically talk about what the astrology for the month is indicating about what is going on in the human world here on Earth and what is going on in our minds collectively and individually. What are our opportunities? What are our potential pitfalls? It's all about potentials and probabilities. So thank you to everybody who watches this channel, likes, subscribes, comments, and shares my videos. I very much appreciate you. If you're not yet a subscriber, I ask you to consider doing so. Every time I upload, you're going to get a notification. So let's get into this. So the way I'm looking at this month, I'm looking at a lot of hype from this month. Since pretty early in February, I've been hearing people say, oh, March is going to be the big one. It's going to be the big one, the big one. There's potential for some very significant things to happen this month. But really my advice for this month is don't feed the hype. Even if something significant happens, don't feed the hype. Because most of the significant things that can happen this month and be turned into headlines in the global corporate controlled media, and most of these outlets are owned by 6 companies, pretty much any significant event that can occur and be turned into news by these information cartels, it's going to be hyped. They want you to play into the hype. They want you to get worked up. They need something new for you to be worked up about, because the whole scamdemic story with the Wuhan cooties and the needle craft and the boosts and all that shit, it's all falling apart, all right? Now these people have engineered these situations in an attempt to conquer the world on a different level. Now the world physically has been more or less conquered because these industrial media, pharmaceutical, financial cartels, they own pretty much all the governments on the planet, except for the countries that George Bush called axis of evil. Many of those have fallen. And you can even argue that those are creatures of this whole globalist mess too. You get some random third world countries that break away from it, that ask questions, and sometimes those leaders pay the price. There was that president of, what was it now? Kenya, who, mysteriously disappeared and ended up dead. He was I think he was a biochemist. He had a PhD. He actually tested, a goat and a papaya fruit for the Wuhan cooties, and they came back positive. So the point is that these cartels, these financial industrial cartels, they own pretty much all the governments. So the world is pretty much physically conquered. Now they're moving on to conquering the actual bodies of the people in this world. And they want to penetrate people's minds even deeper. I think what they want to do is they want to cut off the body from the soul. It's like when people had the needlecraft and the boosts, and they kept saying that they couldn't feel God anymore. It's like, well, your body's more cut off from your soul than it's ever been. This is a problem we have just living our lives without adding, all this needlecraft into it. So the whole point is they're looking to conquer the world on a deeper level, a more pervasive level. Now, these globalists controlling these cartels, these drug cartels, these legal drug cartels, these media cartels, these industrial cartels, these financial cartels, they're not only pissing themselves, they're not only crapping themselves, but they're pissing and crapping themselves simultaneously. And they're nauseous, they're ready to puke, they're so frightened. Humanity has gotten literate and gotten wise to them much faster than they anticipated. You can go back to the Obama years, where I think it was a Trilateral Commission, or Bilderberg, one of these meetings. The big new Brzezinski got up and said, people are much more aware than they've ever been, and it happened faster than we anticipated. So they're scared shitless right now. So they need to scare us about something new. So the needlecraft, that whole thing failed. The invasion of Ukraine was amazingly timed, I think, to disrupt that. Not that Putin's some great guy, but he's no different than any other world leader from any G20 country. He just doesn't hide who he is. It's like a Trump. It's why people hate Donald Trump, because he doesn't hide who he is. He's not a fake and a hypocrite like really most people in the Western world. So that invasion was nicely timed. I think it disrupted the whole needlecraft, Wuhan Cooties Great Reset campaign. And so now they want us to be afraid of something new. They want us to be afraid of something from outside this world. You've got these supposed military CIA insiders who are trying to whistleblow, which I think it's a contrived, designed media campaign. So it's interesting. I think, the enemies, especially from an American perspective. You had the communist enemy. They got finished with that. They went on to the terrorists. That kind of, fizzled. Then they went on to the rogue states, the nations of concern. And I think the terrorism kind of morphed into ISIS, which was sort of a state. That fell apart. It was only meant to last for so long anyway. I think they're cutting the whole asteroids factor out, the potential of being under the threat of asteroids, the Earth being under the threat of destruction from asteroids. They're cutting that out, and then they're just moving right on to, ET or aliens are the new enemy. And that's why you have these shit-stained members of Congress like this Darren LaHood, a Republican out of Illinois, who during the UFO hearings in Congress, he's asking the CIA and Pentagon officials if there are any laws on the books where they can prosecute non-government people who are not government officials. I was going to say non-government actors. I hate this word actors, but it's absolutely true. I just don't like it because all the talking heads are saying it. But basically, he was asking if there are any laws where they can prosecute people who are not agents of government, who are talking about ETs, UFOs, and aliens and all that kind of stuff. So, they want to roll that right into the Patriot Act and National Defense Authorization and all that shit. So they've moved on to this, ET alien enemy thing. And, all these disclosures by the U.S. Navy. Well, those are Navy pilots who are encountering terrestrially made, man-made anti-gravity craft made by aerospace corporations that they don't know about. So they're like, what the fuck is that? It's flying all weird. It's making all these weird turns that no aircraft should be able to make. It's going way too fast. Well, military-industrial complex built that, but they don't want to tell you that. Now, and this has been something that's been in the works for a long time. There was back in 2009, after the economy collapsed and after the bailout, there was this little soy boy economist, Paul Krugman, who was making the rounds to the media outlets, and he's one of these socialist Keynesian types. He lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where Harvard is, so it's like New Moscow, well, the old communist Moscow, not the current one. And they were saying, how are we going to fix our economy? And he's like, well, if there's a threat from outside this world, we can build new weapons and technology. And if it turns out to be fake, then, oh, well, we have a new economy. So, this guy couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. And he's advocating war. Or at least a false, contrived war. So, yeah, we have this whole potential of, alien false flag sort of nonsense. So, yeah, there's people have been saying there's potential in the astrology for something like this to happen. Could be. In my opinion, there were things last summer, last fall, that were much better indicators of some such thing. But, I'm not an authority on this. I've been doing this, what is this, 2023? I've been doing this for, 6 years. So it's not like I've been doing it for 40 years. So I could be totally wrong. I think it's a bunch of hype. Don't buy into the hype. That's like the central message. But I think some interesting things are going to happen. Based on things that I've just intuitively seen my whole life, I think when we get to this fever pitch where this whole blue beam fake alien invasion thing could be pulled off, I think some celestial phenomenon involving the natural world and even involving sort of a higher dimensional catalyst working through the natural world might cause some sort of an astronomical phenomenon, just some sort of like light show in the sky, like the sun putting off some weird light, some weird colors. Who knows? There's a lot we don't know. So I think some very natural phenomenon might drown out any attempt to have this, fake alien invasion thing. But yeah, I don't think this is the big one. I think this is a lot of hype. So just beware of the hype, because the powers that be, especially the information machine, media is coordinated by agencies like CIA. CIA works for the big cartels, the legal government-sanctioned drug cartels, the oil cartel, the industrial cartels, the financial cartels, the weapons cartels. So they're going to pump out information to get you all stirred up and worked up. And they want you, basically what they're going to do is they put these ideas out there and they want you to regurgitate them. So they want to create an echo chamber. They want a feedback loop where people just start repeating what they heard and the whole thing snowballs. So beware of that. Now, I think at the same time too, I think we're gonna get some gifts. Like, we're gonna have opportunities to wake up. The whole world is not, and I'm always saying this, the whole world is not going to wake up all together, all at the same time. Just not going to happen. It's not a thing. Humanity's really diverging here, and I think if you've ever heard of Dolores Cannon, look her up if you haven't, but she talks about how Earth basically divides into two. It's almost like cellular mitosis, where, and this is how cells divide and reproduce. Like, a cell will basically start expanding on the inside. So it'll make a copy of its nucleus, its organelles. It'll make another copy of the DNA. And the cell will expand, and then it'll kind of go bloop, and it turns into two. Dolores Cannon, she was a hypnotist. She wasn't any sort of a medium or occultist or, whatever. She was, not a spirit medium. She was practicing a very particular technique of hypnosis that went deep into the unconscious mind. And it was really going past the personality of the patient she was working with. And I think she was tapping into the collective unconscious. And over the course of decades, she kept getting this message that the Earth was going to divide into two. And I think the catalyst for this was the whole Wuhan cooties scamdemic and, the needlecraft campaign. And people chose to either be dominated by their fear and play into that, or they decided, no, I'm not going to be dominated by my fear. I want to do my own thing. I want to live my own life. So I think this is happening. I don't know how that's going to look, but the message she kept getting over the course of decades was that you'd basically have these parallel Earths and they'd become less and less aware of one another. So I don't know how that's going to work, but that's definitely something that's afoot. So the whole point in that tangent was, yes, we have opportunities to wake up, but not everybody's going to seize those opportunities. So a lot of gifts this month, but people can do what they want with the gifts. Really interesting month. This is going to be, this month we have not only the spring equinox, but we have the solar new year on the spring equinox. Now, the Vedic, Indo-European, Aryan New Year was the new moon in Pisces. So new moon in Pisces, conjunction of sun and moon in Pisces, happens anywhere from spring equinox, which is generally around March 21st, all the way to, first week of April. It varies from year to year. So this year we get the spring equinox right on March 21st, which is always the, in tropical astrology, it's 0 degrees Aries, and it's the equinox day. So yeah, the sidereal and the tropical sync up this year. So that's interesting. And then we have the new year, the solar new year, right on the equinox. So to me, it's just kind of like a pay attention, like you have things aligning. And, really the chart for this day, for this March 21st, which is the spring equinox, also happens to be the solar new year, the sidereal solar new year. It's chock full of goodies. So basically you've got and it's interesting too, because the new moon is conjunct with Mercury, the intellect. It's conjunct with Neptune, it does deal with illusions, delusions, but it can also be deep spirituality and deep sort of like revelations. You've got Saturn on America's natal moon degree, 7 degrees sidereal Aquarius on that day. And it's in the 3rd house for America. Aquarius is a 3rd house of mass media. So basically Saturn is going to force the mass media cartels, mega conglomerates, to stop playing their game. Saturn enforces natural law. So you've got that factor in the mix. We have, on that very day, you have Venus and Rahu, Venus in the North Node, conjunct. This is about really just wanting the things we want in this world, knowing what they are and just wanting to go for them. But Saturn puts the 3rd aspect, it's about 90 degrees away. So we're kind of being held back. We're going to have a better idea of what we want, where we want the world to go, but then Saturn's going to be like, whoa, wait a minute, not yet. And another interesting thing, for the first time since 1702, we have spring equinox and a solar new year with both Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. So the co-rulers of Pisces both at home. Hasn't happened since then. And then at the same time, you have Saturn and Pluto are in conjunct. Excuse me, not Saturn, Mars and Pluto. For some reason, I'm always calling Mars Saturn. Mars and Pluto in conjunct. So they are 150 degrees away, which means they're not communicating. So you got a Mars in Gemini, which is mass media. And then you have, also deals with like travel, markets, things like that. Pluto's in Capricorn, which deals with government, which deals with authority, hierarchy. But it also deals with your soul's deepest desires, your deep wounds, your soul's evolution. So I think what this can mean, this can signal that people are going to be very angry about what's going on in the media, but since they're not in touch with their deep selves, because Mars and Pluto they're not communicating, because the inconjunct aspect, the quincunx. It's also called what is it? Inconjunct, quincunx. It's also the 8th aspect of Mars. So they're 150 degrees apart, which means they're out of touch with each other. So I think too, it's about people getting angry and flipping out, but not knowing what to be angry about. You know, and this is the way like religion and politics work. They give you something to hate so you can feel self-righteous and feel godly by hating the right groups of people. So it's kind of more of this. It's like if something does happen, people aren't really going to understand, you know, what happened and why, and they're gonna blame the wrong people. It's like every time they think, oh, the politicians ruined everything. It's like, no, the politicians are compromised and they're owned by the banking cartels, the industrial cartels, the media cartels, the drug cartels. They're owned by them. The politicians are just following orders. So you waste all kinds of time and energy and life force by getting angry at politicians. You have to get angry at the puppet masters behind them. And getting angry is not enough. If you want to hurt them, stop buying and using their products. That's how you win. So, yeah. And then, you know, this whole thing about 1702. Neptune, the orbit is roughly, it's like 155, 56 years. So, in the about 1858, what was it? I think Jupiter had not caught Neptune, so they'd never met in Pisces. 1702 they did meet. 1702 is an interesting year. It marked that was sort of the beginning of the age of Illuminism, okay? So we're talking about the Illuminati here. The Illuminati, it went public in 1776, May 1st, 1776, so Beltane. This is why the Soviet Union's sort of big national holiday was May Day, May 1st, because the Soviet Union was founded by a bunch of not just Freemasons, but Illuminati Freemasons, so corrupt Freemasons. Freemason's not an evil thing. That's just an idea peddled by these conspiracy experts who they like attention and they want you to donate to them on their YouTube channel so they don't have to fucking leave their house and go to work. Freemasonry is not a bad, evil, or, you know, what the religious fundamentalists call a satanic thing. It's all about how you use the knowledge that you gain within those lodges. So the Illuminati were basically a spin-off who wanted to use financial manipulation to conquer the world. And there's, you know, they had masters. They had masters who started that group and found people to staff it and lead it. So what they did was they sought to bring about an era of revolution to, you know, destroy the world as they knew it. You know, all of the political, religious, familial traditions, the Western culture as we knew it, and then to bring about, you know, this new sort of scientific socialist era. Socialism it's a creature of big banking. It's actually the most lucrative government system for big banking to invest in, because they always need a fucking loan. A person like Bernie Sanders always needs a loan. You know, any socialist, they always need a loan because they don't know how to manage money and they want to be all things to everybody and they want to spend it. And even what we consider to be conservative parties, they're just the right wing of the left. So like Republican Party, or what is it, the Tories, you know, people like that. They're just the right wing of the left because they are also big government advocates who always need a fucking loan. So, what we consider the left, they're like people who they blow the mortgage and the grocery money on toys and clothes for the kids, and what we consider the right, they're rednecks who blow the grocery and mortgage money on just more guns for the gun collection that they don't need. So all this got started back then. So yeah, 1702. What you had within 10 years, you had Freemasonry officially coming to the surface in England. And then again, 1776, you had the Illuminati who sought to conquer and corrupt Freemasonry. So I think that this Illuminati cycle is coming to an end. There will always be secret dealings and secret groups, but I think this one is on its way down. Now, what you also had starting in 1702, you had the very beginnings of these sort of German aristocratic empires. Now, I'm not talking trash about the German people. Germany is one of my favorite countries ever. I think German people are awesome. But their aristocrats for the last few hundred years have been very malignant. And they've raised a lot of hell in the world. And it goes back to the Teutonic Knights. So basically these like Romanized aristocratic German knights got a charter from the Pope so they could go on they went on the Middle Eastern crusades, but they wanted to have a crusade in Eastern Europe and in the Baltic states, so we're talking like Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. They wanted to get into Finland, and they wanted to get into Russia. So Russia's been under assault for almost 1,000 years by these German aristocrats who are very different from the German people. The German people, they're honest, they're straightforward, they're very direct, they're kind, humane people. The aristocrats are completely deranged and just psychopaths. So this was in this time period, you had the beginnings, the Holy Roman Empire, which was ruled by Germanic dynasties sanctioned by the Pope. They'd been rolling for a while, but then you had these Germanic Teutonic Knights. They actually, I think they had a big hand in the foundation of the Protestant movement because they wanted to have more autonomy, more freedom from the Vatican. And these very same people they founded the state, the kingdom of Prussia. So not Russia, but Prussia. Prussia is a territory, a former kingdom in northeast Germany. And they took territory, in Poland and then the other Baltic states. So the kingdom of Prussia, what they did, they ended up gobbling up more and more of Germany. Really the whole expanse of northern Germany eventually. So they went west through northern Germany and acquired territory all the way to the border of the Netherlands. And then they went east, basically shooting for, St. Petersburg, Russia on the Baltic Sea. And they drove the whole push for German unity. I think it was 1870. It was Otto von Bismarck was the chancellor who put the whole thing together for the emperor. I think that was Kaiser Wilhelm I at that point. So they cobbled together this German empire. They brought in all of the other German kingdoms. The Germany we think of is a very new concept. It's about 150 years old. So, but the foundations for this were back in the early 1700s. And, even in the early 1700s, these German aristocrats were trying to conquer territory from Russia, as they had been since, I think the 1200s. So you had the Great Northern War, it was the Swedish Empire, the Prussians, and then eventually the United Kingdom, which was ruled by the Hanoverians, which was a a German dynasty that was the royal family in England, who the Germans absolutely hated. The German people and the other German kingdoms absolutely hated. They got together and they were trying to conquer Poland, conquer parts of Russia. They ultimately failed in this Great Northern War. The Swedish Empire collapsed. Prussians went on, of course. But then they also had, they were allied with the Ottoman Turks, and the Ottoman Turks were trying to, take some territory from Russia. And they succeeded in very limited ways. Russia had some military setbacks, but there were setbacks they could afford. So this is something that's going on in these times. Russia will win, and I think Russia will beat this alliance of these German aristocrats, which, Klaus Schwab is part of. I'll have to make a whole video about this, because this even features into the Bond villains, in the James Bond, Ian Fleming stories, who were Spectre. So Spectre, the special executive for, what was it? Crime, terrorism, revenge, and extortion. So, yeah, we're gonna see this empire of these German aristocrats. They founded Nazism too. So yeah, they've raised all kinds of hell. And the Nazis never went anywhere. They just basically, they went overseas. They went to the Middle East. They basically got Islamic terrorism rolling. They trained all them. They went to South America. And then too, they acquired shares in all of the giant German corporations. So they survived. And a lot of them even stayed in Germany. So not knocking the German people. I'm talking about the aristocrats that own their government. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this summary up here. We'll get into the individual days. But yeah, don't buy the hype. We could see something crazy happen. Something could happen to, air travel, the markets, a lot of, crazy media shit. Maybe some fake alien invasion attempt, but I doubt it. There could be like sightings. But yeah, don't buy into the hype. All right, so let's get into the charts a little bit. Okay, so March 1st, we started the month March 1st. We had a conjunction, 17 degrees of Pisces, sidereal. Tropical was 7 Aries. I like the sidereal more, if you've never seen my channel. Sidereal is visible sky astrology. It's not the mainstream astrology. Mainstream astrology is completely disconnected from the visible sky. Sidereal is visible sky astrology. I like that better. If the degrees sound wrong, I'm using a different zodiac. I'm using the actual visible sky. Okay. So, Jupiter, Venus conjunct 17 degrees Pisces. That's gifts. They are both benefactors of the earth and of humanity. So you put those two together, it's like, it's Pisces. Pisces is, it's really the spiritual sign, the most spiritual of all the signs. It deals with deep emotions, deep intuition. So we have deep gifts in our intuition that we can choose to use to guide our lives. But you don't necessarily have to. March the 2nd, conjunction of Saturn and Mercury, 5 degrees Aquarius, sidereal. So it's 29 tropical, but, not overly concerned with the tropical. So Aquarius, now especially as an American, I'm looking at it from that angle. Aquarius is the 3rd house of mass media and communications. Saturn slows things down. Saturn is karma. Saturn makes you follow the law and do things the right way. Mercury is communication. Mercury is the ruler of the original 3rd house, Gemini. So with America, with Aquarius being the 3rd house, it's like a mix of Gemini and Aquarius. So Mercury and Saturn conjunct at 5 degrees, 2 degrees away from 7 degrees Aquarius, sidereal, which is America's natal moon degree. The moon is your emotional self. So America's emotional self is very tied to communication to the masses, news media. Because in this whole representative government thing, people need to be informed, theoretically. So, well, they get informed either way, but sometimes usually it's bullshit, sometimes it's real. So to have this conjunction here, Mercury wants to talk about all kinds of things, but on one hand, Saturn's slowing it down. On one hand, Saturn is making Mercury, which Mercury is our intellect. So it's making Mercury think very clearly, choose its words very carefully. And whatever gets communicated, it is in adherence with natural law. So we have that. March the 7th, we come to a full moon, 22 degrees sidereal of Leo. It's 16 Virgo. But looking at sidereal, it's full moon, 22 degrees Leo, in the lunar mansion of Dionysus, or Bacchus. Interesting full moon, okay? So for everybody, Leo is authority figures, royals, executive figures. It's also self-expression. Deals a lot with creative expression, arts, fulfillment, heart's desires. For America, it's the 9th house of beliefs, knowledge, science, higher learning, higher information. So it's in Dionysus. Dionysus is the Greek name. Bacchus is the Roman name. So this was the wine god. Dionysus, though, was also a nurturer, a guardian, highly spiritual. A lot of the Catholic and the Orthodox Christian, well, even the Church of England, I think even the Lutherans have communion. So the communion ritual comes from the story of Dionysus or Bacchus. So it's like the whole thing, this is my body, this is my blood, with the bread and the wine. People have used this to fuel the Satanic Panic. So what you had, Satanic Panic during the 70s and 80s, you had these religious fundamentalist Christian self-proclaimed conspiracy experts. And they spread this idea that had been going around since what? Early Christianity. So, we're talking like the 2nd, 3rd century. That anything not biblical is by default completely evil and satanic. Even though they really don't know what those terms evil and satanic mean. Antisocial, I guess you could say. Just, completely antagonistic to humanity. And, the dominant religions, especially Christianity and Islam, they got to be the dominant religions because they use this idea that anything not biblical is totally evil and satanic. And you, as a true believer and somebody who knows the truth, you have the right to kill people who don't know the truth. So that's how those religions got to be on top. I'm not knocking the Christian people, the Islamic people. They're amazing people who follow those religions. But we need to know where things originate from. You can't television doesn't tell you anything. Your pastor doesn't tell you anything. You have to look deeper into things. So in the very old days, the original woke mob were the Christian mobs, who they destroyed 80% of the artwork in the writings of the classical world. They burned the Library of Alexandria, and they beat, maimed, and killed people who didn't want to convert and who disagreed with them. And it's interesting, as a Caucasian, aka a white person, when I meet another Christian and, and they say, "Are you a Christian?" And I say, "No, I'm not." It's like they get this, you're so ignorant. You don't know the truth. This intolerance still exists, but they can't get away with the violence anymore. So So yeah, I'm not saying that people should reject their religion, but know where it comes from and vow never to let it happen again. So anyway, this communion ritual, the Satanic Panic, self-appointed conspiracy experts of the 70s and 80s who were just religious fundamentalists, chauvinist religious fundamentalists, they were like, "Oh, this Catholic communion, it's evil cannibalism," and it's like, no, dipshit. This comes from Dionysus. Dionysus was the vegetation god. His physical embodiment was produce, fruits, vegetables, and grains. Anything that grows out of the earth. His mother was the virgin earth. So when he's saying, "This is my body, eat of it," he's saying, yeah, eat these fruits and vegetables and grains. And when he's saying, "This is my blood, drink it," wine is the blood of Dionysus. That's why he's a wine god. Very literally, grape juice is the blood of wine. Grape juice is the blood of a grape. When you take that blood of a grape, the grape juice, and you ferment it, you get wine. And it's symbolic of, wine is very symbolic of an alchemical process. It's symbolic of how the body makes blood too, how it takes the oxygen from the air, it takes nutrition from the food, which has iron in it, and it makes blood. So don't fall for the Satanic Panic. Vatican's got plenty of skeletons in the closet, even the Orthodox Church, granted, and the Lutheran Church and the Church of England. Every church and religion has skeletons in the closet, but don't believe the Satanic Panic hype. So anyway, full moon and Dionysus, Bacchus. So Dionysus Bacchus, he's a nurturer. He's a savior in the sense that he feeds you because he is the food god, on top of being the wine god. So yeah, so Dionysus wants to do all these things. Now the other side of the coin with Dionysus can be a control freak, because it's the energy of knowing what needs to be fixed and what would actually be good for people, but you can't force advice on people. You can't live people's lives for them. You can't fix people's lives for them. The person has to see what they need to see. So this can bring an energy to the world where everybody sees the answers for everyone else. You know, the truthers see the answers, the leftist, socialist, scientism followers, the woke people see the answers, the religious fundamentalists see the answers, everyone in between sees the answers, and they want to just force their answers on everyone else. So that can be the other side of this. But this can be a full moon where, and you know, it is beliefs. For the US, Leo is the ninth house, again, of beliefs. So this can be an opportunity to really get grounded in genuine beliefs that come from your inner knowing, from your intuition, and from accurate intellectual study. Just get grounded in those beliefs and just be ready to answer questions that people might come to you with questions. They're looking for some guidance. Be ready to answer and share. Waking up the masses is the biggest fucking trap on the face of the earth. I don't recommend it. CIA, which loves conspiracy experts, they love it when people go out and try to wake up the masses, because they can use that energy, because then they can feed more information, they can suck you in more deeply, and you get even crazier about wanting to go out and inform the masses and wake up the masses. Just be ready to help people when they seek your help. Now, looking at this moon, you know, the sun is in Aquarius, third house, mass media for America. And you know, you've got Mercury in there and you've got Saturn in there too. So, you know, this gives the opportunity for people to say some very real, useful, kind of genuine things. But within 5 degrees is a square of Mars on this moon, so it's like Mars can bring in some anger, some intensity, some hostility. So Just keep yourself in check, really. What else now? March the 12th. Okay, here's a significant day. March 12th. Mars ends the shadow period. So what's a shadow period? Planets retrograde. They stop moving at 1 degree. They go backwards. They stop moving, well, backwards from our point of view on Earth. They stop moving again. And then from our point of view, they start moving forward again. But they have to cover all those degrees that they retrograded through. And that takes a while. So Saturn is, not Saturn, Mars. Mars is finally getting finished with those shadow degrees. Coming back to 0 degrees of Gemini sidereal. It's 24 Gemini tropical. 0 degrees, it's the miracle degree. Huge infinite potentials when planets station at 0 degrees, or when they have retrogrades at 0. So it comes back. Mars is moving forward again. So this could heighten some violence, some anger in the world. The whole Ukraine war thing kind of seems to be flat right now. Could see some escalations there. Could, see one side seem to gain the advantage. But, according to the media, Russia's on the brink of collapse, which is totally fucking false. Because the narcissists running the West are, they're scared. They've awoken the Russian bear, and they don't have the resources, the will, or the strength of the follow through to go through with it. So on this day when Mars comes back to the degree where it retrograde, you could see more hostility, more violence, more anger in the world, because it is Gemini, which is mass media. It's 7th house for America, which can deal with enemies. It is also it's US, it's for America, 0 degrees. I think it's 1 degree Gemini, but 1 degree away. This is the natal Mars degree for America. So it's like Mars is on top of America's natal Mars. This is also the degree of Xi Jinping's, ostensibly the ruler of China's son. And this is Kamala Harris. This is both her Rahu degree, so her North Node, and her Ascendant degree. I think both of these people are going to be attacked in some way. They're going to be very angry. They're going to feel attacked. Xi Jinping, when you put his moon in the Ascendant, that Gemini is the 12th house. So he's going to feel attacked in foreign places. He's going to experience some kind of a loss. I think just a loss in, his agenda going his way. Kamala Harris, she's going to feel very personally attacked. Something's going to happen where she's probably going to be on her heels. I don't think she will ever get as popular and loved and well-liked as she wanted to be. I need to do a chart on both these people. What's interesting with Kamala Harris, she has Rahu, the North Node, in her 1st house, and on the Ascendant degree, so it's even more important for her. Rahu in your 1st house, everything you get in life, you have to earn under your own merits, in your own efforts. You can't just get by, with connections, and you can't ride people's coattails to success. I thought, I guess I was wrong, or maybe I'm not wrong. Maybe, there are fucking Biden body doubles. I thought Biden's health would have slid by now. And if something like that does happen, he doesn't finish his term, she would just automatically become president. She would have a disaster administration because she would have ridden Biden's coattails into the Oval Office without having to do it herself. When Rahu in the 1st house, people, attain success that way, it never lasts. And it falls apart because they didn't earn it. So she has nowhere to go but down, in my opinion. And I think she's been slowly going in that direction. Now, let me see here. Oh yeah. Also on this day, this March 12th, Mars comes out of shadow. Mars and Neptune are in a square together. Okay, so yeah, Neptune is 90 degrees away. So Mars and Neptune are 90 degrees away. There's tension between them. So you've got Mars as the get up and go, the anger. Neptune, it deals with divine love. It deals with deep spiritual intuition, but it also can deal with delusions. It can also deal with just smoke screens and illusions and just things that aren't real. This can be a time for people to get angry at the smoke screens that, again, the global media cartels have created. So, look for drama in the news. It's always there, but sometimes it heightens. It's nothing new. Okay, now March 14th into the 15th, interesting little alignment here. You've got a T-square of 3 planets that are in 3 different mutable signs. So mutable signs, the mutables are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. So mutable signs, they are signs of basically winding things down. So I'm talking sidereal here. In both systems, that's what mutables are, but I'm talking about sidereal placement. So mutable signs. Mutables are about bringing things to an end. Cardinal signs are catalysts. They get change moving. They cause change. Fixed signs just want to maintain things. But then the mutable signs, they draw things down. They bring things to an end. They're adaptable. They're like, okay, I guess we got to adapt and do something new. Well, and actually, they're in these mutable signs even in the tropical zodiac, because you add the 24 degrees to get the tropical placements. They're in the same signs. So what you have here, you've got Neptune and the Sun conjunct at 0 degrees Pisces on this day. So 90 degrees in one direction, you get the Moon 0 Sagittarius. 90 degrees in the other direction, you've got Mars 0 Gemini. So again, 0 degrees, the miracle degrees, infinite potential. Sun, soul, it's also the ego, it's your deep desires, it's everything you want. It's your will to manifest your will, your desire to manifest your will. Neptune, it is divine love, it's deep intuitive insight, but it's also smoke screens and illusions. Depends how you compose yourself and how you process the information you take in. So this means that it's a day to be very easily confused about what it is that you want from your life, from yourself, from the people around you, what you want your world to look like. So 90 degrees away. And so Pisces too. Pisces is spirituality. It deals with outer space. It deals with the deep oceans. So the deep oceans, they are metaphorical. They are symbolic of the deep unconscious, your very deep emotions. And then Pisces also deals with outer space, which is kind of the super consciousness. I think outer space is very supernatural. It is the abode of the gods. So the gods deal with the super consciousness. It's the consciousness that connects everything. Depths of the oceans deals with the deep unconscious emotions, which they're individual, but they're also collective. So Pisces is the high and the low. It's the above and the below. As above, so below. As below, so above. So Pisces, it's like the world axis. It encompasses the high and the low and everything in between. So, could this be a day, where some weird shit happens in the sky where the government starts flying its UFOs, which the aerospace companies made, and it's like, oh, we don't know what these are. Oh, they could be a threat from outside this world. Yeah, possibly. So you got that with Pisces. Now, the thing with Neptune is Neptune is, it does deal with this like divine, higher, unconditional love. But when you don't put that sort of love into proper context, you get manipulated. You get manipulated into volunteering for some stupid war that's just all about grabbing resources and, more wealth for giant corporations and mega billionaires. Your love can be used against you. Your love can be used against you to take experimental medicines. So, yeah, there's a lot of different angles to this. Now, you've got Moon again at 0, Sagittarius. Sagittarius deals with beliefs. Moon is emotion, okay? Your emotional self. So, a lot of potential here to get very emotional about beliefs that are not accurate because you've got this influence of Neptune. And then Mars and Gemini. So Mars, anger, vitality, violence. It's building things. It's warrior energy. It's in Gemini, which is mass media. So you put these things together, you get potential for people to become very out of their heads angry about their beliefs, which are, for most people, being spoon-fed to them by mass media. And they are getting their desire to love and be loved manipulated because they don't see things clearly. So very interesting, but they have the full force of their weight behind it because, again, the sun is conjunct with the illusions of Neptune. So very, very interesting here. When you put this in a chart for America, Sagittarius, where the moon is, this is the first house. Pisces is the fourth of the, home security, your homeland. And Gemini, sign of mass media, is the seventh house of partners, spouses, but also enemies. So, yeah, this could be a day to get all worked up, angry about illusions that are basically being projected from our own homeland to make it look like there's an enemy coming from, without, from Pisces. So, yeah, there's potential here for that. Because again, fake alien invasion, it's either a blue beam, which is being projected onto the sky, or the saucers or the triangles or the tic tacs or the cylinder craft have just been produced by Lockheed Martin, Grumman, Boeing, people like that. So it's like the illusion of space, Pisces and Neptune, it's coming from the homeland, fourth house. You get the sun there, which is the leaders. So the leaders are authorizing it. And then, again, Sagittarius, where the moon is, it's the national self. It's the head. It's what's going on in the head of the nation. Getting very emotional because of a fake enemy. So the Mars, 0 degrees Gemini, pushed by the mass media. So, or even a fake attack. I think, if that plan does go forward, you have appearances in the sky, but then potentially, because we've seen this through potential predictive programming in media, they could just start, launching weapons at cities to make the whole thing more convincing. I don't think they're going to get to that point, but it's possible. I think they're collapsing too quickly, and they're too afraid of an awakening, which is inevitable. Okay, March 21st, spring equinox plus the solar new year. So, interesting one. So it's interesting that you've got the equinox and the solar new year synced up into one day. This to me is a big pay attention. Okay? So the new moon, conjunction of sun and moon, it's on 6 degrees Pisces. You know, and this reminds me of something too. It's like the age of Aquarius is coming online, but the way you find out what age you're living in, you see what degree that the sun is rising in on the spring equinox. Well, it's rising 6 degrees Pisces. It moves a degree every 72 years. So we have another actual 420 years or so of Pisces, but you have an overlap zone, basically. So an age of the zodiac lasts about 2,100 years, but you know, it progresses through the zodiac, right? So take the age of Pisces. The age of Aries came before it. Well, the first 500 years of the age of Pisces it was a mixture of Pisces and Aries. Then the middle 1,000 years were strictly Pisces, and then the last 500 years are mixed with Aquarius. So it's really the middle 1,000 years of a zodiac age that are strictly the energy of that particular age. So basically what's going on right now, even though we have 400 more years of Pisces, the dimmer switch is going down on Pisces, dimmer switch is coming up on Aquarius. So, yeah. So this new moon, which marks again the Vedic Indo-European Aryan New Year, 6 degrees Pisces, it's conjunct with Mercury. Mercury is at what? 10 degrees, they're within 4 degrees, they're conjunct. So the intellect is involved in this new moon. And again, this new moon day, this new moon in Pisces day sets the tone for the whole year. So Mercury, the page or the prince, is close to the king and queen, the sun and the moon. He's near the throne, he can hear everything they're saying. So this is a day where our intellects can be very tuned in to, you know, our souls and our minds, you know, the very deep, genuine aspects of those. Neptune is also conjunct within 5 degrees. Neptune is at 1 degree, so it's conjunct. So this is a day too where it's like the soul, the sun, the mind, the moon, Mercury, the intellect, they have this influence from, especially the sun and the moon, because they're closer to Neptune. They have this influence from the deep intuition, the deep unconscious, and the divine unconditional love in the universe. So we can make a lot of transformation and really awaken in this year. There's potential for it. Not everybody's going to take the opportunity, but a lot of potential. It's up to you. On the same day, you have Saturn, 7 degrees sidereal Aquarius. So again, for America, this is the degree of America's natal moon. So America's collective mind, America's collective emotional self. And again, Aquarius is the 3rd house of mass media. Saturn is bringing karma to mass media and saying, okay, guys, you know, bullshit is, you got to clean up the bullshit here. You can't play these games and just lie out of your asses. You're going to have to come clean a little bit. So there's that going on this day. Then you have Venus conjunct Rahu, the North Node, 10, 11 degrees Aries. In the 5th house. 5th house is politics, it's performance art, it's artistic expression, it's personal expression. So, and it's all the things you want in life is the 5th house. And for America, you know, it's Aries. So it's like, Aries is leadership. It's like what is the impetus of your life? Pursuit of happiness. You know, the astrology is very synced up to this American value of the pursuit of happiness. So Venus and Rahu together are like, oh man, let's pursue the happiness here. But you've got Saturn, third aspect, 90 degrees away, looking at it, being like, okay, know what you want. You can't have it yet. There's a bunch of cleanup to do. And then what else do we have? Oh, yeah. Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces for the first time since 1702. So major realizations, deep realizations from the super consciousness, from outer space, and from the deep unconscious, from the depths of the ocean. So it's like a unity of like the high and the low, because Jupiter, sky father of the heavens, Neptune, ruler of the deep, both in Pisces together. So we can have some big aha moments, whether this is some grand spectacle in the sky or just, personal revelations about how we feel and what we want out of life. And then you have this in conjunction between Mars and Pluto within 1 degree. So Mars, 4 degrees Gemini, Pluto, 5 degrees Capricorn. So they're 150 degrees away from each other. 150 degree aspect means planets, they're not communicating. They have a dysfunctional relationship. They can't communicate. So this is a day where people can get very spun up, angry about the wrong things because they've fallen for the illusions. And again, if Mars and Pluto were looking at each other, Mars would have that insight and that influence from a deep, very deep part of the soul, which Pluto symbolizes. So, because, Mars doesn't have the influence of the soul's evolution, and like the personal underworld, instead of people, and, an example of this, instead of people being angry about the way the world is because of their own role in it, because it's like they don't push back, they don't hold leaders accountable, they just watch sports and shop on Amazon and get a buzz on and you could change the world overnight if you boycott things. You boycott the products and services of companies that own your politicians and your governments. You can change the world overnight. But people don't want to do that. They want to live in comfort, and they want to compete with their friends and families. And they're like, look at my expensive crap that I bought. Isn't it fabulous? That's what people want to do. So, yeah, this in conjunction of Mars and Pluto, it's like they don't want to do the work to change the world. They just want to blame the fall guys, the politicians, they're fucking media clowns. Politicians are media clowns. They're just actors in a reality TV show. It's like a tabloid reality TV show. The news is just a bunch of tabloids. And if you give your energy to that, it actually accelerates your aging. It makes you sick. So yeah, and then, to have on this solar new year, spring equinox on the same day, with Jupiter and Neptune, both in Pisces, sidereal, I think this marks the end of this Illuminati cycle and this corporate empire cycle, which has been very driven by these German aristocrats. Most of the royals in Europe for this whole period, for this last 300 years, they've been related to these like German Prussian aristocrats, these royal aristocratic families. It's like how, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, pretty much all the kings in Europe were Queen Victoria's grandsons. So these Battenbergs and Saxe-Coburg-Gothas. So the House of Windsor, the royal family of the UK, their name is actually Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. But for a war against Germany, World War I, their name seemed a little too German, so they changed it to Windsor. I think it's the end of their cycle. And eventually we're going to learn how they were the ones who founded the Nazi Party and have been sponsoring the Nazi International, the Nazi government in exile since the end of World War II. Okay. And then we come to March 30th. March 30th. March 30th, this is a conjunction of Venus and Uranus. 22 degrees, Aries, sidereal. What the hell is that in tropical? It's like 16 Taurus. So Venus and Uranus in Aries. Venus, again, it's enjoying all of the opportunities that the physical, sensual world offers you. It's about your physical environment, enjoying its comfort, enjoying social activity, romance, sexuality, art, creativity, food, music, all that stuff. It's conjunct Uranus. Uranus is all about upheaval, and it turns things on its head. They are in a constellation. The Vedic name is Bharani, and the name I really like, the Western one, is Hades, god of the underworld. God of the underworld is not a tormentor, not a torturer, not a devil. The god of the underworld, Hades, helps you to transform and makes you transform. Because in the reincarnation cycle, if you don't ascend to the celestial realms, you go to the underworld, you basically have to heal the baggage of the life you just lived so you can go to another life and get ready for that. So the god of the underworld makes you deal with the things you don't want to deal with, all the skeletons in your closet, all of your baggage. So I think something could happen where basically it's like we can't enjoy, the pleasures that we're accustomed to having at our fingertips, especially here in the Western world. So that'll be interesting. I don't know what that'll look like. And again, with that going on, you still have Saturn. What is it now? So it's its third aspect, 60 degrees from Rahu, the North Node. Rahu is all about the things you want and you deeply desire. So Saturn's like, no, I can't have it yet. And that Rahu, that North Node, is in the same sign and house as Venus and Uranus, but 12 degrees away, so not really conjunct. But yeah, Saturn kind of holding Rahu back. And then on that very day, you have a Moon-Pluto opposition or mutual aspect, 180 degrees apart. So the Moon, the emotional self, and Pluto are looking right at each other. So this is Pluto is the Roman name for Hades. So this is, and again, Pluto, it's not just the god of the underworld, but it's like your deep spiritual desires, your soul's desires, your soul's evolution, your soul's transformation. So basically, this very deep aspect of the soul is looking at the emotional self and saying, okay, this is what you have to do. This is what your problems really are. Now, for America, Pluto is in second house Capricorn, which deals with wealth, resources, business leaders, also Capricorn sign of government. But second house, house of resources, wealth, and the money you make under your own steam. The moon is in America's 8th house, which is Cancer. So Cancer deals with comfort. 8th house deals with sudden upheavals, sudden losses, sudden gains, sudden transformations. And 8th house it's like other people's money. It's the money you don't make directly from your own efforts. So it's like inheritance, settlements, pensions. 8th house deals with institutional money. So this could be some sort of, temporary financial, economic hiccup, sort of turmoil. I don't know. It'll be interesting. But yeah, it'll be an interesting month. We'll see what happens. Yeah, there could be some, hindrance in travel. I don't know. Could be some, the globalists in their desperation could roll out some fake alien invasion thing. I don't know. Could just be a month where we have a bunch of sightings. Who the hell knows? But again, don't feed the hype. That's an important thing for this month. Take the information into account, observe it, take it into account, move on, live your life. All right, I've been talking for a while. I'm out of here. See you later.